never sleep?
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
What's up, everybody? It's 1 hour time. That's right. It's the show where we talk about one goddamn movie, and we have just 1 hour to do it. Censoring ourselves a little bit these days because we think there might be a YouTube conspiracy in terms of our leverage and coverage, but we're going to get to the bottom of it. So
right.
Just bear with us here. We're trying a few things out. But anyway, welcome to the show. Here we go. Very excited about tonight. We're doing a lot of we're continuing, of course, our series. But I am Evan Husney. And to my left, we have Rémy.
Oh, my Lord.
Welcome back, Miss Rémy.
Very scary.
Ricola.
Yeah, exactly.
Ricola.
Yeah, exactly. Ricola.
Wow, that's cool. All right,
isn't
really
that nice?
creepy.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Well, welcome back to the show. And to my right, we have Mr. Marcus Herring. Marcus, welcome back. How's it going?
Hey there. You know, I could never think of anything to say when you intro me here.
Yeah.
So I asked AI for some help, and it gave me some options here. So
Great. How much
here's
water
here's
was used for this? Just kidding.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, 30 gallons.
Oh, my God. Woo.
I'm gonna unsubscribe right after this. So here's my choices. When you say hi, I'm gonna say either "What's up? I'm Marcus, here to be confidently wrong in public."
Okay. That's what
Or,
they're
hey.
pulling for you? That's what they're...
Hey, I'm Marcus. I brought notes, opinions, and absolutely no restraint.
Okay, that's good. I like that. That's perfect. All right, you should use
great.
that. All right, everybody. It's episode 155 of the show. Of course, that means we're covering a movie from 1955. This is the continuation of our 1 year series, where we're covering one film per year per episode. So 1955 is tonight for episode 155. Last week, shout out for episode 154. We did On the Waterfront. It was awesome. Great time doing that. Thanks to everybody who checked that out. But tonight, this is a big one. This has been one that has been shortlisted since probably the beginning of the podcast, to be honest. And it's insane it took us this long to get to it, because I know we've talked about it a lot over the years, but I'm very excited that we're finally doing it. And that's, of course, Charles Laughton's masterpiece, Night of the Hunter. We're getting into tonight. Very excited for that.
It is weird because if you were making a list of your favorite movies, you wouldn't put this like 150 whatever movies in. Or
Right.
I know.
This would have been much earlier.
I know, especially
I'm surprised.
with the deficit of, 50s, black and white films that we'd had up until this point. Like it just felt like something we would have done much earlier, but very excited nonetheless to do it tonight. And also excited to talk about, on the flip side, once the hour is over, what we're going to do for next week for 1956. We have a very, I think, an excellent pick for this one. I'm very excited. A little bit more of a deeper cut gem, but for anyone who knows, they know. It's a big deal. So we're going to talk about that. But of course, first, let's give a quick shout out to the 1 fucking hour Patreon. Patreon.com/1 fucking hour is where you can sign up for just $5 a month. And you get instant access to all of our bonus content, audio commentary tracks, 24-hour early access to every single episode of the show. It's the best way to support this program, but also it's the best way to support our 1 fucking hour brother, Tom Fitzgerald, who's on medical leave from the show, as we've mentioned. Every bit counts. We really appreciate everybody who's chipping in to help and support, as Tom is in his... during his recovery. We really appreciate it. So thank you so much. And for everybody that wants to keep all their bonus content on YouTube, you can find the join button underneath this video. Click the join button and become a of the YouTube channel. Same price, same benefits, same perks. And we appreciate the support nonetheless. We are scheduling a new bonus episode probably here in the next, hopefully in the next few days. We can get to it where we're going to be doing sort of a sequel to our to that episode when we covered the New York Times top 100 movies of the 21st century list. We're sort of doing our response to that. What are our top 10 favorite films of the 21st century, and some notable omissions that we felt should have been on there, should have been included. We're going to get into that over on Patreon / the Momenship of the YouTube channel. So we appreciate that. Thanks, everybody. All right. Anything we should discuss, or should we just get right into it? You guys ready to do this?
Yeah.
All right.
do it.
Okay. Here's the clock. We're going to get locked and loaded. Everybody get ready. Oh, perfect timing. I like that. Okay. Here we go. All right. There it is.
Really
Okay.
a starter pistol or?
I don't know what it is, but it's...
You keep it like in your desk drawer.
Yeah, right. Wielding around. Okay, so here we go. Night of the Hunter. We're going to start with, of course, a synopsis from the Criterion Blu-ray. Excellent Blu-ray, by the way. Lots of really excellent stuff on this. Highly recommend it. But here we go. Night of the Hunter. Incredibly, the only film the great actor Charles Laughton ever directed. That's right. This is a one and done affair. Is truly a standalone masterwork, a horror movie with qualities of a grim fairy tale. It stars a sublimely sinister Robert Mitchum as a traveling preacher named Harry Powell, whose nefarious motives for marrying a fragile widow played by Shelley Winters are uncovered by her terrified young children. Graced by images of eerie beauty and a sneaky sense of humor, the ethereal, expressionistic American classic, also featuring the contributions of actress Lillian Gish and writer James Agee, is cinema's most eccentric rendering of the battle between good and evil. So there you go. Night of the Hunter, self-described by Laughton as sort of a nightmarish Mother Goose story. Pauline Kael called it one of the most frightening films ever made. And of course, it's based on a novel by his name David Grubb, I believe that's his name.
David Grubb.
David Grubb. Some have said that his novel was sort of a proto Southern Gothic. And this is interesting because we were talking about this before we started recording. That with last week's episode on the waterfront, we're talking about a big seismic shift that's occurring in Hollywood cinema. You're talking about a movie that's stepping away from sort of the artifice of the studio system and shooting films on sets and sound stages with these lavish sort of glamorous, Hollywood stuff, getting into more of the real gritty on location, the real salt of the earth people, working class, type stuff.
The method acting, all that stuff.
All that stuff completely, divorcing itself from what was happening before. But then this movie is very interesting because, Charles Laughton, obviously a major figure of the early cinema years, the silent years, and of course the 30s. Shout out, we covered Charles Laughton, who starred in Island of Lost Souls back when we did our 30s series.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and so this...
Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Of course, yes, of course.
Quasimodo.
Yep,
Incredible.
Quasimodo. So Quasimodo is directing this movie.
Yeah, just to have that visual.
I know.
It's kind of amazing.
It is amazing. I mean, Quasimodo directs a classic here. And but for this, he wanted to harken back to the silent era and to try and recapture that sort of pure visual storytelling, the sort of expressionistic qualities,
German expressionism,
right, of those German expressionist films, the stark black and white, and of course, all the tricks and the in-camera tricks and stuff, the forced perspective sets and the tactile sort of creation of all that stuff, right? It's amazing. So,
and there was a lot of pressure at the time to do films in color. So it was this is interesting because he was really going against the grain, and I think sometimes it's hard when you're looking at classic films, you see the black and white and it sort of blends and that was the norm in the 40s and 50s. But at this point, with 55, right? that really was changing.
Yeah.
So this is what's kind of interesting about this.
What interesting, note about that is it's a kind of they were using new technology of black and white too. Shout out to your hat, Evan, because they were using a Tri-X hat. Because Tri-X was like just newly developed for 35 millimeter film like the year before.
Amazing.
So it was using like the cutting edge black and white high contrast film.
The new school black and white film. Yeah. And the Triax film,
very cool.
which this is Triax porn, if you will, because the film has such a stark white and black contrast in the film. You're really seeing the blacks are black in this movie. And I'm watching it on my OLED TV, where of course, where the sort of the LEDs are turned off when it's black, so you get that pure black. And just watching it again like that on this Blu-ray, it's just absolutely stunning. The contrast in this film. I'm sure we'll talk a lot about it. It's almost like
those, like back to the nightmare Mother Goose thing. It's like, it's also, those illustrations in the 30s in the children's books that almost look like shadows that are cut out, like, and they have that, like animals and a woman in a rocking chair, and it's like the black sort of shadow.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Sure.
No,
sure.
yeah.
Definitely evocative.
It's a big storybook for sure.
Yes. Yes. And on that note as well, it's like, this film, obviously, one of the main point of view that this film has is of, a young boy. And it really does feel like you're inside, a kid's head, dreaming his dreams, experiencing the nightmares, and so it is kind of this like duality of, dream-like and nightmarish at the same time. And it kind of wavers between both of those things.
And like the genres, I think there's so many genres in this. It's like we have you have like an element of 1950s crime because of the serial killer. You have like the fairy tale, dark Hansel and Gretel thing. Yep. You have the melodrama. You have the religious allegory. You've got like
some humor.
So many. You've got the Looney Tunes-esque humor.
Yep.
It's kind of a monster movie, supernatural. So it's like it's every
these
genre.
Prominent like dialectic going on with like good and evil, light and shade. You've got You've got the sort of the monster, and then this like sort of like heaven, like angel sort of anti-monster towards the end.
Right.
There's and like kind of like the surreal stuff. Sorry, like
Oh no, we're on the same page with like the expressionism.
Yeah,
and then there's the elements of realism too. So the whole thing is like
and so it's like
setting up all these contrasts.
Yeah, like saying all this. It's like I guess like the reason we're saying this is like it's unusual. Like it really was unusual to make a movie like this at that time.
Absolutely.
Like it was an art film
in
the style of a noir, but it was really like high art.
It was. Right.
And we'll talk about it once we kind of dissect some of the scenes, but this was very Cocteau.
And very stylized. Yeah. Very stylized.
Cabinet of Dr.
The
Caligari.
studio complained that it was too artsy.
Yeah,
when watching the early
because at that time that wasn't really the norm.
That wasn't
like,
what they
fuck
ordered.
Is this guy doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and the W.D. Griffith thing, like you were saying, Evan, like Laughton loved those movies, and like even like Birth of a Nation and all those early films with Lillian Gish.
D.W. Griffith,
D.W. Griffith. Like, he adored those movies. You know, so it was like taking that and then taking this kind of like Southern Gothic crime story and then combining those two elements together.
It's almost like weird example, but it's like the Coen brothers when they did like Man Who Wasn't There or something. They're kind of hearkening back to this style from decades previous and really committing to it in this way. So it might have appeared a little dusty at times to some of the people of that time because this movie did not perform well.
Yes, exactly.
And it did so poorly that it basically. Charles Laughton, he basically got so disenchanted with the reaction that he never attempted to direct another movie again. I think there might have been one project that was on the back burner or something, but he never would direct another film again. And it crushed him because he put so much into this and he thought, like all of us would have, that this would have been sort of a modern classic. And it's kind of criminal that it wasn't. But of course...
And then became like the epic classic of all classics. And like that's what when you think about like Capra with It's a Wonderful Life, like there's been these movies, Citizen Kane,
sure, right.
And it's so interesting. It's almost like a trope, but like at the time things are almost too like revelatory in a way for people in the moment to understand, and then years later it's to think that It's a Wonderful Life didn't resonate until that many years later, that these people have to go through this grief of being like, oh my god, I'm a fucking failure, and then it's like the most epic movie of all time. So this is one of those, it's a sleeper.
Totally.
I guess
Cult
they didn't really promote it either. I guess maybe the studio didn't like believe in it or something. I heard they didn't sink a lot of money into like making people know about it,
and didn't know how, I think, to promote it at the time. It was, like,
you look at the posters and you look at the advertising for the movie, it doesn't really sell, that it's a horror film or that it's really something that's genuinely eerie and creepy. It looks just kind of like, I don't know, run of the mill of some of these films that are coming out, these kind of B noir pictures, if you will.
Right.
It doesn't really capture the epicness of what this movie was trying to achieve. So there is that too, of course.
That's true. It's one of those that has to be seen to be experienced.
Totally.
For sure.
Totally. Yeah. Absolutely. So
let's do it.
Let's get into it. All right. So much to talk about.
I think we covered everything.
That's it. All right, everybody. See you later.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel.
No, so there's so much to talk about just from jump. So we're going to get into it here. The opening titles of this movie, amazing. You're hit with kind of the harsh horns, very sinister, a score that's sort of the preacher's theme. And as I mentioned before, and Marcus did too, there's a lot of contrast here. There's a lot of, duality between love and hate in this film. There's light and shadow. There's nightmares and dreams, and so similarly, he's playing with a lot of this in the beginning where you hear this very sinister music come in, but then it quickly sort of transitions to a children's lullaby. So you're getting kind of the other half of the yin to the yang there.
The opening with the weird heads and the Mother Goose woman?
Yeah. And so obviously Lillian Gish is looking at us.
What did that remind you of?
Well, Eraserhead, right?
Yeah. Or Dune.
Yes, Dune. Right. Yep. That's even better.
It's very Eraserhead.
But this is, look, we try not to mention David Lynch in every single episode.
I'm sorry.
No, but this is, you cannot avoid it with this movie because obviously it must have been a huge influence on him. And you see how the opening with these disembodied heads, children heads that are floating in the stars, very dreamy, very cool, very weird.
Weird as hell.
Really weird.
And I was saying it, Evan, this may sound strange to say, but this is also like a kind of like a gay movie. And like, I know that sounds really weird. I don't want this to come off in the wrong way. I just mean, I just mean like, it's like in the way that like, I don't know, like an early art, like Todd Haynes movie was with the black and white, and you're referencing like art house and Victoriana and Americana.
Little camp.
And it's a little camp. And it's like the story.
Because Laughton he was married, but he was gay.
He was gay, and like he talked a lot about the fact that being closeted it was due to the sort of institutional religion and the hypocrisy of religion, and a lot of that was why he wanted to make this film. But I don't mean it's a gay film, but I think
that part can be read as campy because it is sort of earnest, like those children, the smiling faces.
Yeah.
Well, it plays as almost like one of those educational films or something you'd see like in one of those when Mystery Science Theater is riffing on one of those kind of industrial kid scare films or whatever.
Right.
It's almost like an edgier director in the 90s, like a Todd Haynes would have maybe made a sequence like that.
I thought the same thing, but then they would play it as a campy nudge kind of thing.
Right, but this is very
presented
sincere.
Earnestly, but it's also presented in the storybook manner. Do you know what I mean?
So of course.
Which is very Americana. And I think also the fact that Laughton, we have to make sure we note the fact that he's British. So it's like there's something about a British person kind of witnessing and viewing America. And he called it this kind of like Americana fable, like a folktale ballad of America.
Right.
So it's kind of this hyper real version. And fairy
we
tale.
love that here when the
outsider
people from the country, the outsiders,
like it becomes satirical and larger than life in a way, and so it's almost like something that you would cut out of a storybook and paste on. And it's
but it's totally it's this incredible move off the top. I think there's a lot to get into of course with the source material. And there's something, James Agee, who co-wrote the early drafts of the script, and sort of there's a whole backstory with Charles Laughton sort of repossessing the script and rewriting it because it was way too long. But it's interesting because I think there's a storybook motif of the kids being read a story by the sort of Mrs. Cooper character at the end of the film, or at the end of the book rather. And so Laughton actually kept that and shot it and used it in the beginning, which is very interesting. And I think you see Laughton kind of switching around a lot of the ordering of the scenes and moments in the film that normally took place in other spots in the novel, even though he was very faithful in the adaptation of the novel. But anyway.
Right. It delivers a payoff when you see her later. You know what
totally.
I mean? You're like, oh, good, she's back.
Yes,
Totally. And of course, we got to mention Lillian Gish, obviously with the biggest silent stars there ever was. And she's hugely, she's one of D.W. Griffith's biggest leading ladies. And so the fact that he grabbed her for this is another direct linkage to that sort of, that era of film, of course. But so anyway, see this very creepy, floating child heads, very Eraserhead, very amazing. And then she's reading this storybook kind of story to the children. And the whole point of it is to sort of beware of false prophets, is what she's saying.
Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves.
Which, of course, is setting the tone for the story and setting the tone for our, evil preacher character that sort of comes in or will come in shortly. So great introduction. We're seeing these helicopter shots, coming down into this small West Virginia town. Also, what you were saying about, just to go back really for a second, about Laughton and as an outsider and showing America, this is also set during the Great Depression.
Yes,
as
it's
well.
A period piece, yeah.
So there's also that, mixed into all of this. In terms of the Americana of it all.
It's like a nightmarish Grapes of Wrath, directed by David Lynch. Kind of.
Yes, exactly.
I thought the theme of the crooked preacher is kind of interesting in relation to last week. We've got this Catholic priest who's like sort of trying to empower the people.
Yeah.
Right.
We've got this sort of like crooked preacher who's like he's basically a grifter, psycho salesman, and just that history of America of like the sort of crooked holy man.
Yes, snake oil salesman.
Elmer Gantry,
Totally.
And the tent revivals.
There will be blood.
And it's it's the most horrific and terrifying force, I feel like in this country. It's terrifying. Yes. Like that is a terrifying idea.
It is.
Right.
And
so I think it resonates no matter what.
And it's pretty fucking revolutionary to have that be a character in this movie. Let's just say that right off the bat. But before we do get into Preacher in how he's debuted in this, I got to shout out amazing helicopter shot of the kids playing in the backyard.
So cool.
Then cuts to the sort of basement cellar doors open as we see a dead woman's legs with fucking high heels all strewn about, and it's really setting up that like this woman has been killed and these children discovered the body.
So it's like Mother Goose to like dead woman in a basement. It's like it's really fucking crazy.
It's amazing.
Like you're talking about dialectics. It's like that dichotomy, right? It's like you're kind of plunged right into this nightmare without expecting that that's what's about to happen.
I love it.
And I just wanted to briefly say too that the character and the story that Grubbs based the preacher on was a serial killer. Did you guys know this?
I didn't know that.
Named Harry Powers from West Virginia,
wow.
who was called the Lonely Hearts Killer. And he was writing to these like recently widowed women, coming into their lives, manipulating them, murdering them, and stealing their money.
Wow.
And he was executed in 1932. So it's also cool because it's based on a true crime story.
Okay.
So it's like that's also why there's kind of this like weird reality is very much like baked into the story.
Wow. I think we should mention that Grubb was like involved in the film, like beyond just the book too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yes.
He was like an artist. He made sketches.
Yes, I love that.
And
they're
he
amazing.
showed Laughton some of his sketches. I was imagining the scene would look like this, drawing the town and stuff.
Yeah,
so cool.
Laughton was like, send more.
I love that.
I love that.
And so they're all working together, like storyboarding and creating this art, like so collaboratively.
So cool.
Very cool.
Very, 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 very cool. So then we get here's the introduction to Robert Mitchum as he's driving in his little Model T or whatever, and he's driving along, and he's talking to God essentially, and he's saying, "What's it going to be? Another widow?" So he's talking to God, who I guess in this scene is being portrayed as his accomplice, because he's talking about how many has it been? 6, 12? You know, you just say the word, Lord. And so it's like this, whoa, crazy moment. What a weird, crazy way to introduce him as like the Lord's bidding is like he's doing the Lord's bidding, slaughtering all these widows and stealing their money. Truthfully, has there ever been a character like this in a movie before?
I don't think at that time.
At this time is what I mean. Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Like insane way to open this, introduce us to this character as this sort of, you know, as you were saying, charlatan, con man guy.
But also like a true believer too, in a way. Like he's psychotic, so he believes. Yeah, you know, he's grifting. Yeah, and he's conning everyone. He seems aware of that, but also seems to have this relationship with his God,
dark, spiritual, satanic.
Which is really terrifying. It's like the way that people can like reappropriate these things to like give them that kind of power, right? Like imbue them with that. Sense of entitlement.
I think that does happen sometimes with like, you know, like real cult leaders and stuff like that. It starts off as a grift or a con, but then they end up believing it and becoming, and you know, well, maybe I am the
and it's this justification. Prophet. It's like, you know, this higher power is imbuing me with the, you know, whatever this power to, you know, whatever he thinks his idea. It's like Kevin Spacey in Seven, but it's like, you know, like it's like
all these wild references,
switchblade knife. But like,
well, let's talk about that.
Sorry,
let's talk about that. So next we see a sequence where we're at this burlesque show, I guess, or and Harry, you know, preacher Harry is there, and again, first real overt. Silent era expressionistic moment here where the burlesque dancer is actually framed in through a keyhole, which is completely a stylistic choice. You know, that's not meant to be practical. It's supposed to be evocative of, you know, the point of view of Harry or us as the voyeurs in this moment or whatever. But it's very interesting touch. And then it's so awesome how it cuts back to him, pans down on the close-up of the hate written on the fist, which is just like, again, then this is that pure silent, you know, visual storytelling. And then we see his hand being put into his coat pocket, and then the switchblade, like an erection, slices through the coat pocket. And this is amazing. I mean, that is also very disturbing because it's like showing the psychology of this guy who's conflating the association of both like sex and violence in his mind. You know, like his reaction to her is like, you know, swing knife, you know? Go ahead.
And like, it's also, you know, the movie keeps on bringing up this theme of like his hatred of women.
But there are things you do hate, Lord. Perfume smelling things, lacy things, things with curly hair.
And his hatred of women's sexuality. And so it's like part of it is like that hypocrisy of like religious fanaticism and you know, Christian repression, that it's like you can't deal with that feeling or whatever the fucking trauma that you went through that made you feel this way. That like you're translating that feeling of arousal into like sexual violence and hatred towards a woman, you know? So that I mean itself is like an incredible visual representation of that guy's whole psychology.
Yeah, and just a quick shout out to James Agee, the screenwriter. He completely wholesale came up with this scene. Or that moment of the knife protruding through clothing. He injected that into the script. It was not in the novel, but he originally had staged it as it was through his pants pocket. But that was a little bit too far, I guess, for the people where they thought that might have been a step too far in the sexual department. But it's amazing. I mean, it's
very Peeping Tom too. Like when you think about that, like the tripod and the stabbing and the voyeurism, and it's like the confusion of that feeling. And also, I guess any serial killer story is kind of
totally. But it's great. It's such a great little moment that, you know, is truly eerie, creepy, insane. Then we get to, just want to touch on this too, is we see, you know, when we're introduced to the kids, you know, of course, John and what's her name? Pearl. John and Pearl. The kids are making fun of, because we've seen The dad, of course, is he's robbed all this money. He's taken all this money. He's bringing it back. He tells the kids to hide all this money, and then the police come and they arrest him.
And that scene when the police come.
Yeah,
I don't know if you were going to touch on that, but like when you see the little boy watching his dad being taken away and the money, and it's like this moment of trauma.
Yeah,
what's happening to my father?
And that's going to circle back around,
and that will come back
totally.
Later and, thematically.
But the moment I wanted to drill down on is the kids are taunting him about that his dad has been executed, has been hung, because his dad, of course, got the death penalty and they executed him.
Hang, hung. Right?
Yeah, they're singing, like a cruel kids playground song, hing, hang, hung, and drawing stick figures of a person being, hung.
I love that it goes to music only at that part.
Yes.
Too, and no sound effects, no dialogue or anything.
Yeah.
Just sort of.
And that's like the taunting children. And I think also that's another moment where Laughton is kind of highlighting this mob mentality, and especially like in a small town.
Yes.
It's like the rural, small-minded, small town mob mentality of kind of that like cruelty of how that groupthink can impact people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And so then we meet John and Pearl's mother, Shelley Winters, returns in the series.
Yeah.
Of course, she was in our 1951 episode of Place in the Sun. And she's here playing a similar character.
Right. She's probably going to pop up in every third film or something until her death. Shelley Winters.
But she, she's playing kind of a similar character here, and she's now widowed because her husband has been, executed by the state. And she's there talking to, I guess she works at sort of like a candy store, chocolatier, or whatever.
Fudge
ice cream parlor.
Ice cream parlor. And she's talking to Icy, what's her? Icy
Spoon.
Icy Spoon is her name.
Which is another kind of like Mother Goose character.
Totally.
Right,
So,
It's weird.
she says, Icy,
Candyland.
she goes, Icy, I don't want a husband, and then of course the phallic imagery keeps ramping up here it cuts to a train barreling down the tracks.
Icy, I just don't want a husband.
Really kind of cuts off her dialogue in a way where it's
really
like
interesting editing. Yeah,
it's just like
it's cool.
It's almost like a proto new wave move, where you cut to this roaring train, obviously implying, and that's that pure cinema thing. Like, it's like that is a completely random image on its own, but placed right next to that little innocuous line of dialogue. It's like, we know he's on that train. He's about to head to here.
Yeah.
He's coming.
It reminds me of In Cold Blood a little bit.
Sure.
Like with the intercutting and that ominous movement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It's a classic Eisenstein kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it's interesting because she cuts back to her and she just says another line about getting married, then back to the train again.
Yeah.
So that cross cutting back and forth to those moments is really interesting.
Really cool.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And just the kind of, I don't want to get too weird, but like how you were saying,
Let's go.
kind of, no, after last week with,
Down girl.
yeah, exactly. But there's something about that, like the masculine, dark, like energy that's tearing through that town, and like mixed with like the sweet women in the little fudge shop. Like, there's just something like fun about that dichotomy.
Yes. I feel like you want to say something even more crude, but you're holding back.
Let's keep on going.
Okay. Anyway,
Self-editing. Yeah.
Self-importing.
No.
All right. So then we have a scene here where John, who's fantastic in this movie, I have to say, and he's telling his little sister Pearl a bedtime story, and it's obviously very sort of reflexive of what's about to happen to them. Because not to bog too much in the plot, but the preacher finds out that after that their father has hidden some money on his property, and he's going to go out there and try and get it by any means necessary. And so John's telling Pearl this bedtime story about the bad man came back and stuff like that. And it's just again amazing visual moment. Doesn't even have to make logical sense, but it's just like the perfect poetic imagery of him. Of the little boy John sort of stepping into the shadows, and then we see that perfect silhouette of Robert Mitchum's hat,
and then
of the preacher's hat.
The creepy singing of the preacher.
Leaning
That was really scary. Yeah. But I have to talk about I have to talk about this, my childhood memory in this moment, because this this is very Poltergeist 2 to me.
Oh, yes.
And like Poltergeist 2 is like my ultimate childhood haunt movie.
Yes.
The movie that scared the shit out of me.
Was that one?
No, that was one.
No.
The preacher, Reverend Cain. And I mean, obviously they must have taken it from this movie, but Reverend Cain is a preacher who was a false prophet, and he comes back as this disgusting ghost played by Julian Beck, who had cancer at the time, who was incredible.
Yeah,
and he's creeping up to the house of Carol Ann on the fence, and he's singing.
He's like emaciated looking,
and
he's like,
wow. The Holy Temple. He's singing this song, and so it's like, and as a kid, it was so scary, that moment, because it was the feeling from a child's perspective where like you suddenly have no control over this total omnipotent force of like evil
coming to your doorstep.
Darkness. And no one can save you. Your parents can't save you. No adults can hear you. And it's like, they're at the threshold, and you know they're like a hair away from crossing that threshold. And Max Cady, Scorsese's 1991 Cape Fear.
Shout out.
I mean, those shots of Max Cady, on the fence, and it's the same feeling that he's evoking, that Scorsese's evoking. And
sure.
I mean, there's so much parallels here. But
isn't Mitchum in that movie too?
Mitchum's in that movie, and Mitchum was in the original Cape Fear.
Right.
But it's the idea that this, it's a false prophet coming in, espousing this sort of zealotry, but he's like this evil force that like feels almost supernatural.
Totally.
And to a kid, it's the most terrifying feeling of being weak and being like you have no control over the situation. So,
and I don't know if this was on Laughton's mind, but again, another former OFH classic I want to shout out is our One Fucking Hour on M that we did in the archives. Again, another serial killer film. But what's from 1931. But what was so revolutionary about that early sound film is they sort of had the, Peter Lorre's whistling as a leitmotif that would, every time you heard him whistle, that was sort of the signal he was nearby, or he had killed somebody, or there was something. That's what that was evoking. And of course, the usage of leaning is kind of very similar. Is that it sort of announces his presence. He's near. He's encroaching, and that's something that again, early sound film sort of technique that we're applying to this film. Which is super cool. So then the kids meet Preacher at Scoops, and this is the big scene
Scoops.
What's it called? Spoons.
Scoops. It's a very like 90s version.
Oh yeah, Scoops. Jesus
in the mall.
Christ. Sorry, Scoops. Is there a place called Scoops?
I think so.
Okay, there is. That's why. Okay. All right. So that's where the preacher demonstrates, we see the love and the hate sort of, sermon for the first time, expertly acted, of course, by Mitchum in that moment. And this is where we meet that, or where that icy spoon, who I hate.
Horrible,
I think she sucks.
Gossipy.
Just as a person in the movie, not as the actor. But
all the gullible people that fall for his shtick.
Yes. Yes.
And that they're like, and she's so hypocritical, and you know what I mean? It's like she kind of like falls all over him and buys all his bullshit, and then like also turns on.
Yeah, she's like
the
in
mob
the mob.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, that she does that too, and then she totally flips. Yeah, but John is instantly sus of Preacher in these moments, and it's great because they keep cutting back to him as you see like his sort of reaction to everything. This bullshit this guy is saying. He's right up to it. Right
the kid knows, and often like the kids do know. It's like when there's something that's like a miss or there's a dark energy. It's like the kids are the ones who and the parents and no one believes the kid, and that's also a really scary feeling as a kid when like, no one around you like believes.
And that's captured really well in this movie, obviously.
Yeah. He doesn't have anyone to go to.
No.
Especially after a certain point. But even when his mom's alive, she's no help.
Well, he's got Uncle Birdie, which we'll talk about shortly, but he doesn't wind up helping
drunk?
it all. Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But Mitchum is like casting a spell kind of in this scene. Like this is the first moment where you see his tricks and the way he goes into these rural towns and he does his sermon and he kind of manipulates all the people, the vulnerable people.
Yes. So, but Pearl is not, obviously she's more innocent and she's of course not hip to what's going on. She crawls into his arms and it's like really creepy.
Yeah.
You know, like very unsettling. The way he's like holding her, it's like, ooh. And
then John feels so isolated. It's like this, that's what scares me too. Like this feeling of him being isolated by this adult who's intentionally.
John doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's so horrible. And that's like a common thing. I mean, that's a realistic thing that happens, you know?
Sure.
Like you have this adult with bad intentions and they kind of isolate a certain kid in a situation.
Let's get to that moment.
Yeah.
So, of course, you know, the preacher is going to, you know, he starts hanging around a lot more and he's going to essentially marry, or he is going to marry Willa. She's going to marry Willa. He's going to marry Willa. Jesus Christ. And Harry basically comes in. He isolates John in the hallway.
Yeah.
And breaks the news to him. And this is when, of course, John is like, "You're not my dad. I'm not going to."
You ain't my dad. You'll never be my dad.
When we get back.
This kind of confirms to Preacher that he knows that the kid knows that there's money here and knows that it's there somewhere. And he's going to work on getting it, you know, however he's going to. By any means necessary.
And this kind of like evil stepdad thing too. I mean, I don't know, that really like rings true. You know, I think many people have had a scary stepdad.
Me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's scary.
I had
it's
a
like,
good one. But
Did you?
Okay, that's
All
good.
right.
And I'm not saying
Damn.
all stepdads are bad. They're not. But
No.
like, it doesn't have to be a stepdad. It could just be someone who's coming into your life as a kid.
Yeah.
And you feel like they're taking over the trust of a person that you love and you have no control.
Right.
You know, and I think that's a very valid feeling for
that
a kid.
feeling, rings true.
Yeah.
Especially in the
Feeling.
beginning. Yeah.
Totally.
And then occasionally that person can have bad intentions, you know, and it's like whether there's something fucked up going on and the kid has no control because the parents aren't like listening to them. Basically, that's kind of the feeling this movie gives me.
So, okay, here's a big moment here. So they're going to get married. And now it's their honeymoon night, of course. And Willa is there. She's seen in the bathroom, and she finds a switchblade in her husband's coat pocket. And her reaction, of course, is, "Oh, men, you know,
boys will be boys.
Boys will be with their switchblades." You know,
she's got a lot of contrast going on too. Because she's like, she wants to. The money makes her feel dirty.
Yes,
and she's like trying to get cleansed of that, and she's like got this religious fervor.
Well, we'll get to that.
Also looking to him for like validation.
We'll definitely get to that in that insane moment. But so she wants to get it on because this is her, you know, honeymoon night.
This is wedding night.
This is wedding night, and this is kind of provocative for the time because the code is still in effect here in 1954 when this was shot, and so it's this really key. She gets totally shot down by him saying, you know, "You thought I'd pawn you like you like me are supposed to on a wedding night. Marriage to me is the blending of two spirits on this side, you know, or whatever."
It's very like Carrie White's mom, you know.
Yes.
It's like the dirty pillows and like the shame and
totally. And then he goes so far as to say, "Look at yourself in the mirror, you know, like look at your shabby ass outfit, you know, and you know your body is not meant for the lust of men." And it's like red flag, you know, like, you know.
And it's also so sad because it's like she's in such a vulnerable position because like her husband got hung.
Yeah.
He literally was executed.
Hing hung.
You know?
Well,
and so it's like
now she's married, she's screwed. She's like, you know, it's legally binding.
Right. And like she's thinking, okay, of course this should be like a loving union and this is natural and normal. And once again, it's like that religious hypocrisy coming in of like we're shaming something that should be totally natural and normal. And so she's then stuck basically in this situation.
Yeah, and then you're right, Marcus. She does say in this moment, she says, like, you know, help me to get clean so I can be what Harry wants me to be, which is very disturbing.
Yeah, and the kind of like the emotional and psychological kind of like coercion and manipulation. Like we're seeing it happen like kind of fast tracked in this movie.
Yeah.
But it's the way like a man with that motivation to control sort of has that power. It's almost like she's being brainwashed in that moment. She's
she is
under a spell, which is very scary.
And evidence of that, if I may, is the next scene. It's incredible. It's the torchlight sort of satanic evangelical ceremony where it's brilliantly staged and filmed, of course, by Stanley Cortez. We got to shout out, the cinematographer by name. His work is unbelievable in this.
Yeah.
But just having the torches, of course, like basically in the foreground, in the background. And it's just, it makes that, and it's the simplest thing in the world. It's basically just like a muslin tent behind them and then two torches. And it just immediately is like the most amazing, staging for this. And so right off the bat, you were like, oh my God, she's indoctrinated because now she's giving this crazy sermon. That
and how the townspeople are surrounded around, you know, with the torches and she's taking on this like bizarre religious ideology and saying the money was thrown away and
very scary.
We're going to be cleansed. And it is almost like this creepy cult evangelical, like scary shit that's happening. And it's I think both the writer and Laughton were very like David Grubb, I had wrote it down. He said it was the novel was about religious fakery or the misguided behavior of religious bigotry and fanaticism. Wow. So I think like the writer of the book and Laughton both were very cohesive about that as like the deep evil of that when you really use that and you
exploit it,
when you weaponize blind faith and how much damage that really does to people, and it creates more damage than anything I could ever imagine.
It's true.
And abusing people and coercing people and repressing people and like how much actual evil comes from that. So I think like the way that they're like staging that, like it's like you said, a demonic.
It is demonic.
Serum. It is demonic.
It's totally demonic. Yeah, I mean with the fire too. It's like it's adding to that element, of course, visually.
Cortez said that Laughton didn't know. He was like he's an actor. That's his background. He didn't know cinematography techniques.
Yes, he didn't know what lenses.
So
he didn't know what like different lenses are.
Yeah.
Right. So Cortez is like all the lighting decisions are like him in the movie.
I love it.
And I love how communicative the lighting is. Like you said, the sets are often quite sparse, but then the lighting is doing a lot of the work.
Oh yeah,
to communicate to the audience like what to feel, how to feel.
Very silent film
about a scene.
Yeah.
It's like the lighting is talking. In this movie.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah, I think
it is like the Brechtian thing too. It's like that.
Right.
It's stark and impressionistic.
Yeah, it's kind of like even in the courtroom scene later on, and it's just literally a white backdrop with like. Like the shadows of like window frames on the back of it, like projecting the back of it. It's like, that's it.
Right.
That's the court.
Right.
That's our set for the courthouse.
Because Laughton was doing those plays with Brecht too that were anti-fascist and like during the rise of once again. And because we are still in that time period right now too. So it's like where all those issues are still swirling around the culture, and the conformity and the lavender scare that was going on. So like these issues are very prevalent in popular culture. So
we should keep it moving because we got a lot to get to. Okay. All right. So great. Another little scene here where we as the audience are now led into where the money has been hidden. We did not know up until this point where the money was hidden. And we see it. It's a brilliant scene. We're seeing essentially Pearl cutting up dollar bills or money and making little paper dolls out of them. And we realize that all the money is being hidden inside of her doll. Shout out to great Don Siegel film we could have covered in our 50s series called The Lineup, where the whole premise is that, the drugs have been smuggled into the country in a little girl's doll. It's a great film.
I feel like that's like a trope.
It's a great trope. I love it.
Yeah.
But there's so much tension in this scene because John comes in. It's like, what are you doing? Put the money back in the doll. And then it cuts to that wide shot where we see, preacher coming down from the, the hallway inside the house, and he's coming towards them, and any minute he's going to see it.
The abusive father.
And they play it in real time, and it's paced out. And they basically get the last dollar in just before the last second,
scary.
And the paper money dolls are flying around, even when he's outside, and it's like
that's really scary when you see like the
super scary,
whatever the dollar bills like.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a really gasp-worthy moment there. And so this is where Harry confronts John about knowing that you tattled on me, that your mom now knows that I'm looking for the money. And so this gets us to this set piece that's also just incredible of Willa coming home, and the landscape, the house, the exterior is just all fog. Kind of reminds me of The Exorcist in a little bit of a certain sense. And, that famous shot in The Exorcist as she comes home. And as soon as she walks in the door, it's obviously the preacher's trying to get to Pearl and getting her to break. And as she opens the door, Pearl's running, screaming from him. It's very scary moment. But this is it. This is the big scene where Willa is murdered. We see this scene. It's incredible. The set design. It's cool. Again, very evocative of these German expressionists. The idea that we're seeing the negative space, almost like a
church steeple kind of shape.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It looks like that church.
It's like
steeple.
his own little chapel, kind of.
Totally. It's just absolutely. It's really incredible, and it like evokes that cabinet of Dr. Caligari. You were saying that sort of expressionistic set.
His
design.
gesture, like he gestures up to the light, and
it's very also like Nosferatu.
It's amazing. And then she's just sitting there with like her arms crossed, like she's almost like a fucking vampire laying there in a brainwashed trance. Yeah, like she's in her tomb,
in a coffin already.
Yeah, exactly. She's in her coffin, and she's already surrendered to the idea that she's going to be sacrificed because like she knows and she admits it, like. You're trying to get the money out of my kids.
She knows it.
She knows.
But she doesn't.
And then she says the money is still with us. It's still tainting us. And she's almost laying herself down to be murdered. Yeah.
So scary. And it's crazy. And then he comes in with the switchblade the way he stabs her is so weird and expressionistic,
Very vampire.
Very,
with a stake through her heart kind of thing.
Totally. And then of course, great filmmaking again. Right when the knife comes down, it smash cuts to the kids waking up hearing the car starting, which to us, of course, great visual storytelling, audio-visual storytelling, knowing that he's going to go dump this body somewhere.
And this is based on true murders too. So it's like very scary that this shit like also happened in real life. Like,
I know.
And a lot of these dead bodies were like mangled and found like it was really horrible. Anyway.
And then we get to really just the most arresting visual image in the whole film.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible.
Like meadow grass under floodwater.
Oh, so cool.
Where we see her dead in the car underwater with her, that sort of seaweed or whatever, flowing in the water, her hair flowing.
Yeah. And this is almost Cocteau-like
very
surrealism. Yeah.
But it's kind of handheld in under the water because I guess it had to be. So there's movement to the image, which gives it this even more.
It's incredible.
Dreamlike.
More of that like contrast. You got that beautiful grass underwater, and then this horrific idea that she's, with a dead body right next to it. The horrible image and this beautiful like metaphor of grass underwater.
And the water too, like that keeps on coming back as like a symbol. It's like the water is going to cleanse us. You're baptized in the evangelical baptism shit, and then like the money was thrown in the water to cleanse it, and then you have the river theme. So it's like there's a lot of cool stuff there.
Yeah, that's true. And like what's also really pretty insane also for the time is if you look in these shots, these incredible indelible images, you see the actual slit in her throat.
Yeah.
You see it. And you see that it's like this, which is pretty wild for the time that was allowed to be in there.
Something that also just hit me is like, I think what made this so different, and which now we've seen with like Lynch and other people throughout film history, but one of the first times we're seeing something so grotesque depicted so beautifully.
Yeah.
And I think that just hit me. Like, that's why it's so, like, there's something so beautiful about like glamorous macabre,
like the wrapped in plastic,
like,
kind of
yeah.
But even
there's that famous was it Victorian painting or something with the woman dead in the water? You know what I mean? She's like floating.
The Ophelia,
among the reeds. Ophelia. Yeah.
But even like later we'll see that being a more in like Manhunter, for instance, where it's like stylized murder, and we've seen that later in film. But I think like to see that where it's like it's so grotesque, but it looks like a gorgeous Man Ray photograph or something.
It's really an incredible image. And of course, Uncle Birdie, he witnesses it, seeing it above from the boat looking down, which is also, I think, pretty sweet. And then he remarks later that she was slit in the throat like she had an extra mouth, which is like, holy shit. They could have just got away with that line of dialogue, but no, they actually show it, which is pretty nuts.
Oh my God, just looking at the clock, and we've got 12 minutes to discuss the whole best part of the film, which is the second half.
Okay.
Let's do it. All right. So, essentially the kids, are running off. I mean, they run off and they manage to escape this horrible man. And it gets into just, the most iconic little chapter, 10-minute sequence, if not maybe more, in the film, which is really this sort of dark fairy tale moment where they manage to escape him in the boat and they go drifting off into the river. And it's amazing. It's just absolutely, first off, as the kids launch off, let's talk about the tension of Preacher trying to get to them, and then delivers this scream, one of the best screams in all of movies. It sounds so crazy. Like it's
and the
so
Frankenstein
intense.
monster stuff, like we didn't really mention, but he actually is depicted as like a Frankenstein monster.
Oh, when he's in the
with his
basement,
arms outstretched.
Yeah, the arms, like that's so cool.
Totally. So yeah, the kids drift, and now we cut to the stars, and it's amazing. And Pearl is singing "Pretty Fly," the lullaby.
Once upon a time, there was a pretty fly.
It's just incredible.
This is the part where like the storybook quality really comes out, you know, and Laughton told them, wanted the second unit to shoot things as if it was a storybook, see the world how a child would see it.
Yes.
And then you see all the animals, the spider web, the frog, the things the kid would notice, And it's all shot in a soundstage, like fake river on a soundstage,
love it,
which adds to the sort of like storybook element,
dreamlike quality too.
Dreamlike quality. Yeah.
You see the shots of the owl and the turtle. And
also the idea of like the innocence, like where the Mother Goose character is talking about like how little things have a hard time in this world. Like, these innocent creatures that are like left to the devices of these corrupt adults in this horrible society, and they have nowhere to turn, And it's like they're like these little animals that are like crawling along the river.
Yeah, and I think he wanted to evoke the idea of like nature is nurturing the kids, that's the kind of concept here. It reminds me of Walkabout. Shout out to one of our early episodes that we did on the show.
Yeah, like orphan children too.
Yes,
going back to nature.
Exactly. It does feel like that in a lot of ways, and it's just so
the film does a good job connecting the POV of the children, which I think is one of the key reasons why people connect with it. Like you're transported into that
Absolutely.
world. I mean, I still see myself to the kids, even as an
100%.
100%.
And the way he's chasing them, and you see the silhouette, and it's almost like he's unrelenting, and nothing will stop him. And like that
the Terminator.
Feeling, once again, like as
Terminator.
a kid, it's a really scary feeling. And like you said, the storybook like barns and the way they're cut.
Well,
out.
I want to talk about that. You get to this incredible image of where their first little stop off, where it's that beautiful lullaby, the rest, little one, rest, and it's the cutouts, just literal 2D cutouts of these two barns. But it's a perfect
like Disneyland.
It's so cool.
Framing, of course, the shadow gradient of the sky is incredible, and it's a cool little detail is when they get off the boat in that moment, the water is still. But after they see Preacher coming on the horse, once they're in the barn and they come back to the boat to run away from him, the water is like, it's like torrential almost. Yeah. So it's changed given that that he's re-agitated them. So again, more like visual storytelling.
And the moment in the hay.
Well, I want to talk about that.
Yeah, sorry, please.
Okay. So obviously amazing. Well, first, what gets us there is a tracking shot underneath udders, which is like cow udders. We're tracking underneath, which is very weird. But they go up into the barn to sleep, and this is amazing because I didn't know this. And of course, this is the iconic of all iconic shots of the movie as we see Robert Mitchum, riding in on the horse in silhouette. Marcus, did you know that this is forced perspective?
I did. Well, I didn't know until we got ready for this episode.
Okay,
that is. Yeah. Do you want to say it?
Go ahead.
That is not Robert Mitchum on a horse because they're shooting on a sound stage, and to get that distance, they used a little person on like a dwarf pony.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
That's awesome.
Movie magic.
Movie magic.
So it feels obviously farther away because they did that incredible, like a Shetland pony and like a little person is what they used for that.
Right.
Incredible. And then of course, we hear the song, him singing the song again, the leitmotif comes back, and then and John's line of dialogue is,
Don't never sleep.
is amazing.
And this is also
That is-
very Cape Fear
yes.
once again with like Juliette Lewis's character in that Hansel and Gretel set. And it's like the big bad wolf is coming after.
Yeah. And don't he never sleep is like really just drives home that he's a monster.
He's a
He's
monster.
an actual.
There you
Yeah.
go. Jason Voorhees. Yeah.
He's got exactly.
Yeah.
He's got like those supernatural.
So the kids take off on the boat and they run into Lillian Gish, of course, Mrs. Cooper, who's sort of running a home for wayward kids, and she's kind of
a
the savior.
relief when they run into her.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
She represents the true values of
Christianity.
loving thy neighbor and
Yeah.
what Christianity and Jesus is supposed to represent
Yep.
in an authentic, genuine way that's been usurped by these corruptors. But she is actually the authentic thing. And so it is really actually a relief, like you said.
It
like
is.
You really feel like, oh my God, finally an adult who like is looking out, and
And meanwhile, as preacher's getting to town and trying to question around to where the kids might be, there's a great just quick shout out to the production design here. When he gets to town, I guess that the production design here was done to be through a child's perspective because the neon. Because go ahead, because the neon signs are like
They don't go anywhere, right? It's just like it's supposed to be like children don't see everything; they just see like details and things that they're fixated on.
So true.
Like when they made the cityscape, it's like they just put neon signs up. They don't actually go anywhere.
They're just
It's
hanging
cosmetics,
freeform,
a
right?
restaurant. There's no building. They're just hanging.
It's
there
like
in the air.
Dogville or something almost. It's like really crazy. So very cool touch. But of course, preacher shows up to the Cooper house. He's sort of chased off, and she sees him immediately. John's like, he ain't my dad, and she says, he ain't no preacher either. And she grabs the shotgun, and he says, I'll be back when it's dark. And this is again another one of the great moments in this movie where we see the silhouette of Miss Cooper with the shotgun in the rocking chair.
Yep.
And then he's out there somewhere, and we can hear it because he starts
like an
singing.
animal. But
Yes.
that's what's so weird. Like it's like she's like and when she shoots him, like we got someone in my barn or whatever, and it's like and he has like almost these Looney Tunes.
Well, I want to
moments.
get to that.
Oh,
yeah, we'll get
Sorry.
to that.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's like you hear him singing, leaning, and then she's sitting there almost transfixed by the song, and then she joins in the song with him.
Leaning on Jesus, leaning on Jesus.
Which is and this is what's interesting, which I read is she sings the part the actual lyrics which are lean on Jesus, and so she's saying Jesus, but Laughton doesn't give preacher. He never says anything about Jesus in the film, so it's to show that delineation between of course that he's he's a fraud. You wanted to separate that, but it's amazing. When she blows out the candle, he's gone. Great
Jump
visual
scare that he's gone.
Totally.
Ooh, that's really scary.
I want them kids, and what you were saying is very strange is that Laughton goes for kind of a laugh here where some have criticized that maybe this wasn't the right moment for it. But I guess it's that cliche of stepping on a cat and then that's where he is. And so then she shoots him. And it's such a Looney Tunes moment because
Like Woody Woodpecker.
It is. He gets shot and he runs off screaming, ow, 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 into the barn. But it's so Lynch and weird. Like that's
Or
could
Daffy
be.
Duck. Daffy
Yeah,
Duck.
Yes.
I'm trying to think which character, but there is a character.
But this could have been in like The Return, or it could have been in
Roadrunner, or-
Inland Empire. Like it's such a weird choice.
Yes.
Very weird.
Yeah, and like Wild at Heart, when like those little, they're kind of like
Wild at
quacking,
Heart,
like
yes.
the little like Munchkin characters.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that he was lured there, or he got hip to them from Ruby.
Oh yes, the other
she's
girl
like
living
a-
there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pathetic, like kind of gullible girl who's like seeking validation. From
But the
him.
other good thing, I'm glad you brought that up because there's just something I was reading about that, like
traumatized.
the way that the Mother Goose, Lillian Gish, reacts to the young girl when she like was flirting with boys at the newsstand. It's not this like harsh, scary Carrie White's mom admonishment. Admonishment.
Right.
It's not punishment and fear and shame. It's
Right.
it's actually like
Empathy,
understanding,
love. Yeah.
empathy,
Yeah.
love, caring, and be like, okay, I get what you're doing, but like I am here, like, and,
Be careful.
And so that's a cool, like
Yeah.
she is. It's the one thing
She
that
gets
the
it.
dialectic, the dichotomy, like, yeah.
So the cops show up to arrest Preacher, and this is very interesting. That's another just interesting choice in the story, where and Laughton staged it exactly identically to when John and Pearl's father gets arrested. It's the same staging of the actors when Preacher gets arrested, and for whatever reason, that visual of him getting thrown on the ground, Preacher, and his handcuffs being put on him. It traumatizes John, re-traumatizes him. And then he takes all the money out of the doll and he's like, here's all the money you wanted.
And he says the same thing, like, don't, stop, don't, or whatever he says, like, don't do it.
Yeah. So that's, whoa.
Yeah, it's heavy. It's
like
super
heavy, that part.
It's like his father, both his father and the preacher have like, with their greed, seeking money, have like caused him all this trauma, and it's just too much for him to bear. To see it happen again, he's like, just take the money. I don't need this. My mom died. I've been suffering.
Both my parents. It's killed both my parents. Yeah,
and then there's like,
and then just seeing the pattern repeat itself too.
Yes, exactly. And I think like that, the Depression era. Also commentary about like the economic desperation that was happening, and the extreme lengths that people will go. Like the father was robbing
desperate
because like he was like, I'm sick of seeing these children without money
and food.
Yeah.
All right.
And
2 minutes.
It's actually getting me emotional watching him break down.
I know. It's really
the
intense.
Poor kid, all the suffering that the kid went through, the whole film was coming out at that moment.
It's great.
All these, it's a real like childhood trauma moment, like stuck. Like, I don't want this anymore. I don't want this bullshit that these adults have put on me. Like, let me be free. Let me be a kid. Yeah.
Wow.
And then he does get to be a kid, like
he
at
does.
the end, it's like Christmas.
It's Christmas.
It's like beautiful moment, and, but then also the mob, like quickly, like weird, like when they actually get the preacher and he's going to be hung, and then all of a sudden the townspeople turn into the pitchforks and like,
it's a weird choice.
And so it's once again, it's showing that like blind faith and mob mentality. And it's like, they're going with the wind, and it's like, So
that is true.
Kind of remind me of Day of the Locust too.
Oh yeah.
At the end with all this.
Totally.
Mob.
Ruby's so damaged, she's still in love with him.
She still wants him.
Oh my God.
Well, John can't testify against him either. Let's mention that like, he doesn't make eye contact, won't say a thing.
It's interesting.
And that's
the
very
quality of mercy or something.
It's
like,
that, or
he was a father to him in a way.
Or he just doesn't want, more murder and death, and because he knows what the penalty is going to be.
I think that's part of it. Yeah. I think it's like the eye for an eye thing, like not believing that that's the answer.
Because
they're commenting on that
conscientious
like
objecting,
the bloodlust of like the mob mentality of like, he did wrong, hang him,
kill him,
and like kill him, and that's also the hypocrisy of religion of like an eye for an eye. Of
Love
like,
it.
It's just more violence, and
then it's Christmas, and everyone gets presents, and he gives Mrs. Cooper an apple wrapped up in a doily, and it's like the cutest thing
she's
ever.
Like, that's the best present anyone could ever have. And
I love it.
And it's like the idea of Christmas too. It's like almost like a John Waters. I know, that's why I keep on thinking of that. It's like almost like a campy idea of like American Christmas. Like there's nothing more wholesome and beautiful. And
note to self: end movies with Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. We did it, but it was hard.
We did it, guys.
We did it. Of course, left a lot on the table, but guys, this is a monster movie. Literally and figuratively, it's such a great film. Can't say enough good things about Night of the Hunter. I know when we were announcing this whole sort of concept for the show, everyone was like, for 1955, you have to do a Night of the Hunter. So, you guys were right, and of course we did, and we knew there'd be a similar mob after us if we didn't. But
it definitely endures,
It does. I love this movie. I've always have. It's always been on my top.
Me too.
Whatever. It's so fantastic, and it really is also just it sucks that Charles Laughton never got to see this movie.
I hate that.
Get the proper
like adoration
and influence that it really did, but it did. And it's the greatest one and done of all time. There's no other one. There's no other one. It's the greatest. Yeah, it's the greatest. So,
and it hasn't been remade, thankfully. And if anybody does have plans to remake it, fuck you.
Fuck you. I think there was a made for TV.
Wasn't there a
90s?
remake? I think there was.
A made for TV, but
really?
I think it wasn't
was.
like an actual theatrical release.
I don't think so.
No?
Maybe not.
Okay.
Oh my God. I just read
what?
A new adaptation of the 1955 classic thriller Night of the Hunter in development from Universal, with the director of Black Phone set to direct. So
What's Black Phone?
Black Phone is that
the Ethan Hawke movie about like the child,
the really new metal
like
kind
killer.
of weird clown killer.
Yeah.
So sorry, Marcus. Looks like
That's
we're
a very
gonna.
depressing.
Well, hopefully
note
that's stuck
to
in
end
development.
this.
Yeah, right.
I love it with like
We-
such a straight face.
We wish development hell on you on that one, guys.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes.
We curse you with development hell.
Yes, right. Because there is nothing worse than that. All right, let's talk about next week. Very excited for next week. Rémy, I'll let you get into detail on it, but I'll announce what it is first. For 1956, we are going to. A lot of people were. This is a good segue. A lot of people were. There was a small percentage. Most wanted Night of the Hunter, but there was a small, sad group out there who wanted Rebel Without a Cause for 1955.
Wow.
Which, of course, is another monster film from this year. But the reason that we did Night of the Hunter, not only because we knew we'd be under fire for not doing it, but it was because we wanted to save Nicholas Ray for next week. So we're getting into Nicholas Ray for one of our favorite gems of the 50s. Rémy, we're going to be doing Bigger Than Life
Yes.
next week.
Yes.
So pitch the audience on why Bigger Than Life is going to be a great one to watch or revisit if they haven't seen it.
Oh my God. This is one of the greatest movies of all time.
Wow. Okay.
And it's so 50s and scary, and it's I'd rewatch Fire Walk with Me. They're amazing companion pieces.
Yep.
My
Living room horror is what we'll call it.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, to me, pure. This is the origin of like domestic horror. You know, like child, like the fear of child abuse within a setting. No one can hear you. White picket fence. Crazy father. Scary, scary, scary.
This is a Rémy classic.
Yeah, this is like all the shit
Yeah.
that I love
This is
in
it.
one movie. James Mason.
Yeah.
Childhood trauma.
Well, it's
in
James
1950s
Mason.
conformity. Yeah.
James Mason plays a school teacher who gets addicted to this new drug, cortisone, which I believe is somewhat of an amphetamine. We'll get into what it is, but
Yeah.
he gets painfully addicted to it, and it basically drives him psychotic. And now this family is living with a psychotic father that they're all trapped with and learning.
Which most
to
people
deal
can relate to anyway. So, I mean, not there's some good dads out there.
with.
But,
Of course.
So,
Yeah, a few.
sorry. But anyway.
But
yeah.
Psycho, film from 1955.
And I think it's a cool way also to like, it's a very 50s commentary movie.
Yes.
And so I think like I feel like we've been touching upon that, which is kind of cool. So this one is really much like dark side of Eisenhower, conformity,
Totally.
Blue Velvet shit.
Totally. And it's also finally, thank fucking God, our first color film
Yeah.
that we've done
God,
in
thank
6
God.
weeks.
Yeah, it's gonna be like Wizard of Oz, and we like walk
I know.
into beautiful color.
Technicolor. So
Yeah.
that'll be next week. If you have not seen it, definitely get your pre-watch in for Nicholas Ray's Bigger Than Life, starring James Mason from 1956. It's going to be great. I'm very excited about that. Another movie I've wanted to cover forever on the show, so very excited about that. I think now we're getting into the banger after banger territory here.
Yeah.
As we're getting into the late 50s and, of course, then into the early 60s, there's going to be a lot of great stuff, guys. So wanted to also remind everybody, because there is a YouTube conspiracy where we're probably not reaching the people that need to be reached with this program. So, PSA, don't have the word fucking in your YouTube title if you decide
never.
to start a channel. But a little lesson we learned. But definitely hit the subscribe button if you're watching this and you have not subscribed to the show already. We really appreciate it. That's the simplest way to help support what we're doing. So subscribe to the channel. And if you like us a little bit more than that, you can sign up for the One Fucking Hour Patreon, patreon.com/onefucking-hour. Just $5 a month. Gives you access to all of our bonus apps. We have so much up there now between audio commentary tracks, hilarious bonus episodes, and it gives you 24 to 48 hours early access to every single episode that is here and how you're listening to it, so you can get it early before everybody else. So, and appreciate the support of everybody signing up thus far. And if you want to do that on YouTube, you can also just click the join button underneath this video and become a Momen of the YouTube channel. So, all right, appreciate that, everybody. But we cannot leave you, as I just mentioned, without your Momen of Zen. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time because we have to leaving. All right. Bye, guys. Take care. So long.
So long.
Bye.
All right, mate. Just a minute. Don't cut. Mitch, take a deep breath and run as long as you can. You haven't cut, have you? No. Put the knife further away from you, Mitch. And hold your head still and start. The knife further away. Knife further away from you, Mitch. Boys are rolling. Come on. The camera's still running. All right, Mitch. One deep breath. Barrett?
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
That was wicked, man.